Hello, everyone. This is W, also known as William, host of the High Art on the Edge page, host of Surprise Cast, Where the Mountain Meets the Sea, released in September 2024, is not just an album. It's an impressive journey through aural soundscapes that evoke the enchanting beauty of Topanga's natural setting. Meadowlake, known for their rich musical textures, have truly outdone themselves with this album. Collaborating with the likes of Buck Meek and Jermaine Dunes has added layers of depth and authenticity. The sound is unfiltered and quite crystal pure. Listeners, including me, are invited to embark on this gentle sonic adventure, discovering the places where nature's majesty and the sheer muscle of music come clashing together. Let us welcome Meadowlake to the Surprise Cast studio. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
We have Meadowlake here joining us from the Netherlands. We have Tjeerd, Yarno, and Olivia. Thank you so much for participating in this podcast. Let us begin with a few icebreaker questions. And I'd want to toss this one over to Tjeerd. This one is for you.
Good.
Oh, by the way, Tjeerd, could you tell the listeners what you do in the band?
Yeah, I'm the drummer in the band. So do a bit of backing vocals also, but mainly I do drums in the band. Yeah.
Ooh, I used to play the drums, probably not as well as you do. So I'll have a few questions for you.
Good.
Okay, Tjeerd, here is your question. If your life at this moment in time had a theme song to it, what song would it be and why?
Great question. I don't know why yet, but the song that comes to mind is from Cassandra Jenkins, and it's Clam's Casino. I don't know if you know this from her latest record. I don't know. I think we're in a good place where we are with the band, and that song I think maybe has a vibe to it also that is really positive, and sonically it's also a bit in the same the spectrum as we are in, I think, and so maybe that's why. I don't know, but so if you're asking me on the spot, this is the song, and this is maybe also the first reason why. Yeah.
Landed it beautifully. Thank you. Yarno, could you tell the listeners what you do in the band before I give you an icebreaker question?
I'm the singer, and I'm also the songwriter, and I also play guitar. So that's the three main functions I have.
Thank you for sharing. None of those, which I do, so sorry, but I will be asking you some questions. Yarno, this is your icebreaker question. Here we go. You're out with your friends, and one of them says, "Hey, Yarno, let's go do some karaoke." You go to a karaoke bar, and they turn to you, and one of them says, "Yarno, you pick a karaoke song for us to hear you sing. What song would you pick and why?"
Yeah, I would definitely go for Thank You Next. I think it's Ariana Grande. I don't know why, but I know the lyrics by heart, all of them from start to finish. I always think that's pretty impressive, even though maybe because I don't really like pop music. So I think I would really impress my friends with that one.
Let me know when that happens.
Yeah.
Say that again.
You already impressed us with it once. So.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Now, when that happens, Yarno, you better be careful no one's recording it.
I'll look around the room to make sure.
Olivia, tell the listeners what you do in the band Meadowlake.
Yeah, I play the bass. I switched actually because I always played piano and the keys, but well, our bass player quit, so I took over. So on the last album, I mostly play bass and a little bit of piano, and I do backing vocals.
All right. Are you ready for your question?
I hope so.
So my girlfriend, Katrina, has great judgment on books and movies, and she recommended a television series called Ted Lasso. I finally finished it. But here's my question, Olivia. What TV series would you recommend to our listeners and why?
I think I would go for something like The Leftovers. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a beautiful show about 2% of the world population disappearing and nobody knows why and what's happening after that. And it's actually quite intriguing. The first season, I think you'll have to watch it. I thought it was a little bit rough to go to, but the second and the third are absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I would recommend The Leftovers.
Okay, listeners, you have some homework to do, including me. All right, now let us launch into our podcast conversation after some of that warm up. Tjeerd, I want to throw this question over to you. Could you tell the listeners anything you remember about your childhood that still impacts you today? It could be something positive, it could be negative, it could be both.
Yeah, I don't know. But many good memories of my childhood and of my upbringing. So
yeah, why do you have so many good memories?
Yeah, I think I grew up in a loving and nice family, so I have a good relationship with my parents, and yeah, so I have many nice memories of that time as growing up as a kid in a safe environment, and yeah.
So it sounds like your parents were quite supportive of what you did while growing up. So tell the listeners, how are they supportive? Why were you so connected to them?
Good question. Yeah, I think, well, just besides just being always there for you and going to, stuff together or whatsoever and bringing you to sports or to things from school or just being present, I think it was also that they were there in times when, well, you had it rough or you had, so I think they were just really there for me, just both emotionally and physically, I think. Yeah.
Between your parents, mom and dad, who are you most like? Who do you resemble the most in terms of their behavior?
They both have aspects, of course, that you love really a lot. So, and I will really love both of them really a lot. So, and if it is aspects I had to choose, there are aspects about my mom that I really like, and the way that she's caring and funny, and yeah, but there are also aspects about my dad that I really like on, how he's honest, but also I can have really good conversations with him, and so there's things I admire about both of them. So, but yeah.
Okay, so you just touched on something that kind of hit a nerve with me in a positive way. And let me explain. You just said that you are connected to your parents for good reasons, and particularly connected to your father because you can have a conversation with him. I'm going to tell you, and you probably know friends, that does not always happen, particularly with fathers. Sometimes fathers have a hard time opening up and expressing and communicating with their children. So I'm very happy to hear that you relish that time with your dad because he's able to do these things. Yeah. What does your father do?
Yeah, good question. How do you say that in English? So he used to be in insurance or whatsoever, and then now he is, when people are in debt and they are being put under, like the responsibility of a legal person that is taking over their financial situation. So,
and your mom?
She's a cleaner and always was there for us during our childhood also. So, yeah.
And could you tell the listeners, where did you grow up?
So we live in the north of the Netherlands, and we now live in a city called Groningen, but I grew up a bit south of it, just in another province, so the province called Drenthe, in a really small town with I always joke there are more cows than people there. So yeah, it's really small. Yeah.
You know, it does sound like you had a really wonderful childhood, and that's to be celebrated and honored. So, Yarno, I'm going to toss the ball over to you.
Yeah.
Would you care to share any impactful childhood memories that still linger and affect you today?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that came to mind when you asked the question was actually something music related. And I really had to think about, there's a picture of me when I'm about 2 or 3. And we used to have this very old wind organ, like the one your grandma used to used to have. Like you'd have to pump it with your feet, and then you could play the keys. I was really small. I could just reach the keys when I was pumping the the wind into it with my feet. Yeah, there's a really cool picture of that where I'm playing the the organ as a really small child, and I'm also wearing like pink and blue t-shirt and pants, so it looks really rock and roll. But yeah, aside from that, I think that really influenced me as well. That there was also always music in the house. There were always guitars, and like I said, the organ, and I would always try to play on it. Of course, I couldn't really do that. My parents also allowed me to, when I was a little bit older, to write the notes on the keys with a pen. That's how I kind of taught myself how it worked. So there was a G on the, and an A and a D on the keys, and I would just write out what I wanted to play just by trying. And then I had these little notes with all the letters on them. So yeah, that's one of the memories that comes to mind.
What a warm memory. You mentioned guitar being in the house, music.
Yeah.
I've heard time and time again, Yarno, when music was played in the house for a lot of the artist musicians, many of them would say Beach Boys, the Beatles.
Yeah.
I've heard The Clash, Nina Simone. So what was it like in your household?
Yeah, I think there's two, and one of them you already mentioned, the Beatles. And I think, yeah, my dad is from 53, so I think he grew up with the Beatles when he was a teenager. So, but the other one is, I found out later, was kind of pretty modern of him, I think. So he played a lot of REM when I was a kid, so that really influenced me. And he would always play that when we were like playing with Legos or something like that together. And yeah, only recently I started thinking about that, and I thought that was pretty modern of him, because at the time it was the 90s, and I think he always played the albums that were just out. So yeah, I think that was actually pretty cool.
Are you telling us, Yarno, that you were using and building Legos whilst listening to It's the End of the World as We Know It?
Yeah, definitely. I remember that song.
Oh, what a contrast. And are you close to your parents? It sounds like you are, yeah?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I think we've had some difficulties in the family, but yeah, all in all, we are all pretty close, I think.
And where did you grow up?
I also grew up near Groningen, just like Tjeerd. But I'm also a little south of Groningen. It's called Haren. And yeah, that's a kind of rich folk town. So I used to have like an accent that could really place me in that town. So when I when I moved to Groningen, that was kind of a telltale sign that I was from that village. But yeah, so it's really, really close to Groningen. Yeah.
Really enjoyed hearing that part of your life. Olivia.
Yeah.
It's your turn to share impactful childhood memories.
Yeah. I think there are two things that come to mind. First, the fun one, because I was thinking about what Yarno said triggered me. And I have a mother and father and one sister, and me and my father actually had a little bit of a weird music taste. So I listened to like Vangelis or Genesis at a very young age. And my mom and my sister hated our music taste. And once we were on a vacation, and we went into a music store, and they had box of 50 CDs with Western music, cowboy music, and we were totally in love. So all of the rest of the trip, we listened to those CDs until my sister and my mother went totally crazy, and we had to listen to something else. But we still joke about it because it was so much fun. But that, I think I shared that with my father. He, at a young age, he bought really big, how do you say that? Speakers. And he always told me about the parties he threw with the speakers in the windows of the farm they lived at. I think I have that part inherited from my father, because we really relate on that part. So that's the fun part. And the other part, well, it's a little less fun, I think. My mother was ill during my childhood. And, well, I actually found out about it when I was a little bit older, because we were pretty young when she got diagnosed. And when I was ready with my university, she died. So she passed away, and it's been a while ago now. So it's all right. But I think it really affected our music, because Yarno and I are a couple, actually. And yeah, he knew my mother. We are together from a pretty young age. So he knew my mother very good. And it was also, we grew up together almost. So yeah, a lot of what you can refer to in the first album, and I also think in the second one, is related to that event. And actually, his mom died a few years later. So you can see something about grief and loss, and kind of that. But also, I think a hopeful message, because it's not only sorrow, what's left of it, but also beautiful stuff, I think. And actually, I think the start of the band has something to do with it, because we kind of learned at a young age that life is not for granted, and do what you. If you look back, and we have always said to each other, when you look back and, well, what if everything fails at the end of your life? What do you want to do with your time? And making music was one of the things we really wanted to do. So it affected our music very much, I think.
That is so touching and very sweet to hear. And that connects to something I was just talking to my girlfriend about over the past couple of days, was the loss of my father. And we went to a place here in California called Lake Tahoe. And we scattered my father's ashes in a river 5-6 years ago. So whenever I go to Lake Tahoe, I always think of my father. I didn't always have the best relationship with him. It was very strained, and we struggled. But since the death of my father, I've learned quite a bit about myself. So I'm going to ask you this question, Olivia. Since the passing of, sounds like a beautiful mother, what have you learned about yourself that you wouldn't mind sharing with our listeners?
I think I've learned a lot about myself since then, only because the age in which she died. Let me think about it. I'm the eldest one of the family.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of felt really responsible for my dad and my little sister. And I think the responsibility, I think that's a part of me which I understand very quickly, that it's something that belongs to me as a person. And I think I can use that very well in all sorts of situations. And I'm pretty good at taking the lead in stuff. That's what I quickly learned. But I also learned that I had to set boundaries sometimes and to take care of myself too, because Otherwise, you can get so caught up in taking care of other people. But I think that's something I learned to do in the years that followed, because it's actually pretty hard if you're if you're still in the grieving process and you see the family members grieve, then it's pretty hard to set boundaries. But I think that's something I learned quicker because of that event.
All three of you have expressed and communicated with me in a way that tells me already how mature and how articulate you are and how in touch you are with your feelings. So thank you for opening up and being slightly vulnerable. I appreciate that. This podcast is, yes, it's entertaining, but it's also educational in a way that people find connection through these stories that the artists and musicians share. And they learn a little bit about themselves through this process. So thank you. I'm full of gratitude. Okay. So this gives me context, even greater context, as to the wonderful, rich, warm sound of Meadowlake. And I'd like to transition into the band and the work.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin a wheel on my screen. Now you can't see it. And that wheel has different topics. And those topics come from this book called Creative Act, A Way of Being, written by Rick Rubin. And whatever it lands on, I'm just going to go to that page, and then I'm going to read you a quote, and then you just respond. But when you respond, I want you to think about how this applies to you in the work that you do inside the band. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Okay, great. Okay. So, Tjeerd, we're going to start with you.
Lucky me.
I'm going to spin the wheel. Here we go. This is called experimentation. So Rick Rubin, this is what he says about experimentation. We have collected a handful of seeds, of starting points and potentialities. We now enter the second stage called experimentation. Fueled by the initial hit of excitement at discovering a starting point, we play around with different combinations and possibilities to see if any of them reveal how the seed wants to develop. Think of this as a search for life. We're looking to see if we can get the seeds to take root and sprout a stem. There is no right way to experiment. So what are your thoughts on experimentation when it comes to music, performing, creating?
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better than he just did, or what you just read out loud. It's beautiful, but it really hits me on the exciting part, on the part of getting on the skinny branches and trying things out, and a bit. So we in making this album, we had it really reminds me immediately of that process of making music here in the house and working on the songs together and trying things out, and seeing if we can come from an idea to a song and find out whatever works. And it's definitely a process we really like, but I also really like doing together. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. He also goes on to say this: there are countless directions to explore, and we never know which will guide us to a dead end and which will lead us to new realms until we test it. In case of a song, a vocalist might respond very quickly to a musical track, and the melody will immediately reveal itself. Other times, although the singer finds the musical track compelling, they will listen to it 1,000 times and nothing will come from it. Yeah?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I can really relate to that. Yeah.
And And so with the band and Meadowlake and the experimentation process, is that something all of you enjoy? Or is there someone in the band that seems to enjoy it more? Whomever wants to answer that.
I think if I could speak for the rest and all of us, I think we all enjoy it because it's such a free stage where there's a lot of freedom. And in that sense, we all enjoy it. But I think of the three of us, I enjoy it maybe the least because I'm always like evaluating of where is this going, and is this going in a direction I like? Is it just like Rick Rubin mentioned, is the seed sprouting, and is it going to be, I'm always kind of looking for the end result, while I know I shouldn't really do that because we should just try all kinds of things and let it develop. So I think I'm the one who's most in my head all the time. So in that sense, I think for me is the least fun maybe. But yeah, it's also a really cool process where everything is still possible.
So Yarno, let's get inside your head. We're going to spin the wheel. Your turn. Oh, here we go. Okay. This one is called inspiration. This is what Rick says about inspiration. To create space for inspiration, we might consider practices of quieting the mind, meditation, awareness, silence, prayer, any ritual that helps us fend off distractions. Breath itself is a potent vehicle to calm our thoughts, create space, and tune in. It cannot guarantee that inspiration will come, though the vacancy may draw the muse into play. Inspiration means to breathe life into. So how did inspiration come to you for the making of this album? Was there a lot of breathing? Did you have to meditate? Anything you want to share?
I think most of the times ideas for songs just kind of come to me like a main idea most of the time. So it's like a sentence I hear somewhere or something somebody says that really strikes me or so in that sense, I don't think I really need a lot of silence per se.
Mm-hmm.
From that point on, once I have that idea or that first sentence, especially the last couple of years, I like to go into kind of a stream of conscience kind of mode and just write down what comes to mind with that sentence. And most of the time I found that I'm really kind of sounds strange maybe, but then I'm really happy with what I wrote. And then there's this moment later when something comes to me that I'm like, oh, this is what this is about. So because it comes from such a subconscious level, I think for me that once I've written it down and a couple of days later, I can think, oh yeah, I know what this is about. And then kind of a story or a narrative develops around the idea. What I did want to add was that then sometimes to further develop it and get it all down in my head the way I want it to be is that I go for a run or something or start or cycling or something like that, because that really clears your head. And I also preferably don't run with music in, so I just hear the sounds of the environment and the birds singing, and then sometimes I can write lyrics in my head that way, and I really like that. So yeah,
let's take that one step further, shall we?
Yeah.
So Rick says this: the beauty around us enriches our lives in so many ways. It is an end in itself, and it sets an example for our own work. We can aim to develop an eye for harmony and balance, as if our creations have always been here, like mountains or feathers. So my understanding with the making of this album, you all of you came to California to find inspiration. Is that true?
I think we came to California to really find a way to capture the songs we had already written at home, but then really wanted a fresh take on really go into the deep end in a way, go into the studio. We already knew the songs, we had already written the songs, but then in the studio just kind of explore what we can do with the songs and kind of challenge ourselves to record it all live and capture I think a kind of a raw essence of the song. So I think that's mostly why we came to California.
So let me toss out some words here. We have Buck Meek, Jermaine Dunes, and Topanga.
Yeah.
What do they all have in common?
Well, I think a free spirit. I think the Topanga has this really old hippie kind of vibe, and we really like that. I think there's a reason why Buck and Jermaine started living there, because they really have that too. Kind of the free spirit and mentality. I think they also challenged us to record the whole album live and to really capture the spirit live. And I think that would have been something we wouldn't have done because we like to make everything perfect and we don't like to make mistakes. And so that was kind of a thing we had to get used to, but they really inspired us to go for it and record it all live. And yeah, in the end, we couldn't be happier with the result. There's even some mistakes in there which we kind of love now. So that's really cool.
I love that you said that, because that's kind of what Rick talks about quite a bit in this book, is like how we make mistakes in the work that we do as artists, but it's important to come to appreciate those mistakes because they can lead you down a path you had no idea existed.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
Now, I understand you had Heba Kadri.
Yeah.
She is, I see her name everywhere now as part of mastering work. And I've spoken to some artists who have employed her amazing techniques. So what did she bring in the mastering process to this album?
Well, first of all, it was really special for us to get to work with her, and that all just came together because we contacted Buck and he was excited to work with us, and he knew a lot of people in the industry, of course, as well. And he could just recommend us to people he had worked with before. And we could have never dreamed probably to let Philip Weinrobe do the mixing and Heba Kadri to do the mastering. So that was really special for us to get to do that. And yeah, I think it's always difficult to really capture what then the mastering really does. But what I did find with the difference with the mixing, with the end mixes, was that there was a lot of more warmth in the end result, and just everything really came together in the mastering process. I think there were some songs that kind of stood out in a way amongst the other songs, and then I think she really made it into one piece and one sound. And yeah, like really like an album that of 10 songs that really belongs together, and that I think doesn't really sound like much other music I've heard. It sounds maybe a bit like some other music, but I think it's really the sounds are really original and raw and warm at the same time.
Yes. So when I first heard this album, I think I even wrote about it, listening to some of these songs on your page on Meadowlake. I was going track by track, and warmth was the first adjective I could think of. With these songs, the way that they are structured, the way that they are organized, the way that they flow from song to song, tempo to tempo, it's a beautiful body of work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Olivia, your turn.
All right. Spin the wheel.
Okay, here we go. This is called lightning bolt. Surrounding the lightning bolt, an explosion of information arrives in inspired moments. How can we avoid becoming fixated on these bolts of lightning? Some artists live as storm chasers, awaiting for spontaneous strikes, longing for the thrill. A more constructive strategy is to focus less on the lightning bolt and more on the spaces around it. The space before, because lightning does not strike unless the right preconditions are met, and the space after, because the electricity dissipates if you do not capture and use it. When we are struck by an epiphany, our experience of what's possible has been expanded. In that instant, we are broken open. So tell us about some lightning bolt moments in any of these songs while making them, inspired moments. I think this does come beautifully off of inspiration.
Actually, I was a bit triggered by what you said, what you read about the right conditions to make it happen. And I think it's interesting to talk about that a little bit, because then you'll get the point, I think, how the lightning bolt stuff works with us.
Yeah.
Because I think we learned over the years that it's really important for us to have, when we're making music, how we interact with each other is actually really important, because there have been times before the making of this album, Yarno told a little bit about it, that we're a bit perfectionists. We want to do it right. We're not schooled musicians, actually. So we didn't want people to notice in the beginning when we started the band. So we were a little bit anxious, we hold on a little bit too tight, I think. And there was something between our second and the last album we wrote. We made a decision to approach it differently, to take a lighter approach and to be more in contact with each other, to embrace the joy of making music, actually.
Nice. I like that.
And sometimes we fall back in wanting too much or being anxious or something like that. But most of the time we find ourselves in a more relaxed state where we're in tune with each other, happy to be with, because we're actually really good friends and we like to hang around. So if we're in that space, then the light bulb thing is mostly happening. And I think there were, in the making of this album, there are always a few moments when it happens. It's most when we play a song with the three of us for the first time, then and we're in the right space, then like magic happens. I try to explain it to people, the magic of making music. You can't really explain what it is, but it's not relatable to anything else. It's for me, because you feel really connected to each other. You're feeling this is going to be something beautiful, and it's adding something beautiful to the world. I don't know, maybe nobody will ever hear it, but it's uplifting, it's positive, it's just beautiful. And I think in that moment, that's the light bolts. And maybe in this album, when I think about the recording process, then I would say Rivers was our light bolt, because it's actually not it's the one with the little mistakes, but because of the little mistakes, it just makes it wonderful and beautiful. And it's what we want to share with the world, because in music and in life, not everything is perfect, but good things can come from not perfect, so to say.
Beautifully put. And of course, I wasn't there during the making of this album, but based on what you just described, I like that approach, that mindset you have with, okay, this may not be perfect. We know it has flaws, but there's beauty within those flaws.
Yeah.
Because that's part of our identity as a band. And I'm going to end this lightning bolt with this little quote here. He says, making great art may not always require great effort, but without it, you'll never know. If inspiration calls, we ride the lightning until the energy is exhausted.
We can relate to that, I think.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to work and work and work. And then something happens. And sometimes it's, well, a Dutch, I have to think of a Dutch comedian who says sometimes you need a whole day to produce nothing, and sometimes it happens in 5 minutes. But I think about it a little bit the other way around. Yeah, you have to put in the work, and I think in the making of our album, actually, 1 or 2 songs, it's the first take who you made it to the album, but you do it a couple of more times because you don't know what's going to happen next. So sometimes you need 10 takes before it's there. And I think in making music, it's always the case. It's not coming without the work, but sometimes you don't need to work that hard and only that hard, but you have to let the process be.
Yes, absolutely. And he says, do what you can with what you have. Nothing more is needed.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I'm loving this conversation.
Me too.
It's very rich. And I want to say how much I appreciate how in tune you are with your feelings about the music that you offer to the world. And it sounds like there's been great growth since the beginning of Meadowlake up until this 3rd album.
Uh-huh.
And it's only going to get tighter and stronger and richer. Okay. Can we listen to a song?
Yeah.
And after we listen to it, I would love to get some analysis. Now, I had the wonderful opportunity to think, what song do I want Meadowlake to talk about? And then I thought, shit, there are too many tracks here and we don't have enough time. So here's what I decided. I probably have listened to the album all the way through probably 8 times now. And just this morning I went to go work out and I'm like, okay, I'm going to find that one song while working out. And here's that one song. Listeners, I want you to take a listen to Nothing Will Hold Me Back, track number 6 by Meadowlake from the album Where the Mountain Meets the Sea.
Can you see me? I know that look in your eyes. Do you know how much I love you? All that I hide. I waited for a long time. I got it all in my head, and nothing you do now will make me love you. Nothing will hold me.
Okay. Now that we've heard that song, who would like to analyze it in terms of lyrics, song structure, anything? Because It's an amazing track.
Well, thank you. I think I'll probably start.
Yeah.
I won't.
Great.
I won't let this one go to the other band members because they'll probably look at me like, "Well, you've got to say something about this one." Yeah, I think it started the same way, like I mentioned before, kind of like a stream of conscious effort where I think I had my guitar tuned in like an open D, and I just started picking, and kind of a melody came out of that pretty quickly. And I just started singing along to it. And I think it wasn't until maybe even a couple of months later that I listened back to it. It was like a voice memo kind of thing. And then I thought, well, everything I'm singing already has kind of a coherence to it, even though it was just improvised. And it had like a kind of a subject and like an idea that I really connected to only later when I listened back to it. But when we started playing it with the band, the rhythm of the finger picking really didn't work with the rest of the ideas we got. So with the bass and the drums, that was kind of a shame. But then I thought, I'm just gonna go with just regular chords. So it's a really simple chord progression with just C, A minor, F, G. But then that really worked with the rest of the band. And then I thought, but this also really works with the song. Like it's kind of a simple love song in a way. I like that we just have that simple structure and just build on that. So in the sense of the structure, it just starts with this acoustic guitar and just the vocals. And then once we get to the first chorus, we build on that with the piano and the bass and the drums. And I think it kind of slowly keeps building until we get to this climax. Yeah, like a climax with electric guitar. And I think that really goes well with the song, which, like I said, is kind of a love song. And yeah, when you fall in love, you have all the building blocks, and then you have to just keep building to make it into something special. So that's why I kind of like the simple bones of the song, and we just developed it that way. And yeah, that was kind of the thing.
Thank you for that analysis. When I first heard this song, I knew immediately it was very special. It's like a Valentine to instrumentation, working in unison, harmony. This song, as you mentioned, is layered, maybe in a musician term, with some simplicity. Not for me, because I'm not a musician. But when the snare gets tapped with the drumstick, there's all these little features, and then the bass line just holds it all down, allowing for the song to really open up and blossom. And it is very much a romantic song to me. Even if I never heard the vocals, I would say it sounds very passionate and romantic. And when this song really goes off, it still never goes off in this bombastic way. It's still restrained. It's done with such purposeful energy, and it really is a breathtaking song, because I can see all three of you working this out in a way that's like coming together.
Yeah, it was that way in the studio as well, I think.
Yeah,
where we're just really close to each other, and
yeah.
I have that image also still from when we recorded it. This was one of the songs where so there was a separate vocal booth where Yarno was continuously singing live in. But for this song, Yarno and Tine were both together in the vocal booth, and you had this. So the place where I was playing drums, it was a bit on a lower level than both the vocal booth was, but also where the control room was, where Buck and Jermaine were sitting. So if I looked up from my drums, I could see two couples working together on this, in the meanwhile we were making this love song. So it was really also this song really clicked with the moment and place and the people that were there. So it was really. I always have that image in my mind when I hear this song, that we are sitting there in the studio and I look at these two couples working together on this love song. So that's.
So Olivia, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Yeah, that's okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I've spoken to many musicians. When they are done completing a song, they all have different reactions to it. One musician said to me, when he knows a song is done, it sends shivers up and down his spine. When I ask musicians to sit here and celebrate a song, it's hard for them because they feel like they're bragging, they're being too boastful. Do you realize how wonderful this song is? Is that easy for you to recognize and go, yeah, we put together a great fucking song here?
I think for me, it's a little bit more easy because I didn't write the song. Yarno did. And like he's my partner. So I obviously am proud of the song. But is it okay if I share what I discovered? Yeah, okay. It was actually really fun because when he was playing the song, we played it about, I don't know, 25 times or something. So I heard it and I heard it and I heard it over and over. And one day, I think we had a conversation about something, I don't know. And then just the lyrics just hit me. And I realized something about the man I loved, which I was subconsciously aware of. But then I heard it in the song. And I teared up and I was really surprised to see it in the song written all the time. I hadn't seen it, and I just said, "Oh, now I know you a little bit better through this song." So it just clicked in my mind, I think, and that's why I love this song so much, because it has. I obviously love all the songs on the album, but this one has a special place in my heart because I think it says a lot about how he is and how our love actually works, maybe his love to me, because I'm the chatty type, but you already guessed that, I think. But it was so beautiful to see, to hear him sing actually his love for me, for how he, I can totally relate to that, how he's in real life. He really shares something in the song about, how he is. And that's what makes it especially beautiful to me. So I'm proud of it. I can say that.
Sweet Jesus, this is powerful stuff. I love that. And for all the listeners who are listening to this podcast, that's a great way to say, if you love someone or something, you don't always have to, it can come in so many different colors and shapes. It doesn't have to be you physically telling that person. It could be through music. It could be through some form of poetry, whatever it is. I think you nailed it right there. And that relationship, that bond that you two have, and the way that it's expressed through these channels of music. I mean, my God, that's incredible. And that's also a tribute not only to the work that all three of you do as musicians, but also just to the power of music and how it becomes another voice for us to express our feelings.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, God, now I want to hear the whole album again, damn it. Yeah, and listeners, go back and listen to these songs. And like I said earlier, they're so threaded beautifully together. They tell these little stories. They give us a little emotions to all three of what's going on in the band and things that sometimes we have no idea how to express until later. Who wants to share what's coming down the line for Meadowlake in 2024 and beyond? Are we doing some touring? Are we have some more songs on the way? Maybe another album? You might be coming to San Francisco.
Well, I think we're we're kind of in the process of writing some more. So maybe there'll be some new songs sooner rather than later. We're not really touring at the moment because Olivia has had some surgery done and she's still recovering from that. So we did do an album release show here in our hometown, but that was already kind of a lot for her. So that's all the touring we're going to do this fall. So probably we'll start touring again in 2025. And well, I don't know if we'll come to San Francisco, but we are planning to tour in America probably later that year. So 2025, somewhere maybe around September. And if we can, we'll of course also come to the West Coast. So we'll let you know.
We'll see what life throws at us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm going to totally be okay. So
yeah,
just takes a little bit of time.
Awesome. This sounds fantastic. Okay. We're going to wrap up this conversation with a little bit of what I call fun time. The first game we're going to play is guess the album that I'm holding in my hands. This is how it works. Because there are three of you, each of you get 3 questions. The only way I can respond is with a yes or no answer. It really requires for all 3 of you to listen to each other. So after the 9th question, you're going to guess the album and the band, the vinyl that I'm holding. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Now, I'm going to give you a clue to the album. Here we go. The clue is one of the most dazzling, sparkling, infectious indie pop record ever. Okay. 1990s. That's all I'm going to say. Ladies first. Olivia, you get to ask the first question.
Male or female vocals?
All male. Yarno, go ahead.
Is it an American band?
No, that's a great question. Okay, Tjeerd?
I don't know why, but I'm also on the geographical path. Is it a Scandinavian band?
No,
okay.
Not a Scandinavian band.
Okay.
Is it still playing on the radio today?
Some of their songs?
Mm-hmm.
I would think so, yeah. Question number 5, Yarno?
Are they blonde? Maybe the lead singer, if they're not all blonde.
They were, but a lot of them have gray hair now.
Would you consider it as more alternative or more mainstream?
They are known and were known for alternative indie.
Are there synths on the album? Or is it just guitar?
A lot of it is just good, straight indie pop, guitar, bass, drums, and beautiful harmonies.
Was it a colorful cover?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty yellow and pink.
Are they from the UK?
Yes.
Okay. No.
Okay.
They are. Okay, now you each get a guess on the band or the album.
Joy Division.
Okay, that's a great guess. No. Let's go to Yarno.
The Cure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very curious.
Let us know.
This is Teenage Fan Club. The album is called Bandwagon-esque. And one of the reasons why I picked this album for this game is because when they all come together and sing, it is just beautiful. And on the album that you have created, when that happens, it's beautiful.
Thanks.
So you have not heard of this album to all preview. And to my listeners out there, our listeners, I highly recommend Teenage Fan Club from Scotland. Beautiful, warm, indie, what I call pure pop perfection.
We're going to listen to it.
Yeah.
It's maybe a big shame that we don't know it, but we actually don't.
No.
It's pure money. You're great.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do some rapid fire questions and then we're going to wrap it up. Here we go. So this is where I'm just going to throw a question at you and then you just answer it the best you can. And when I mean rapid, it's going to be fast.
Ooh.
Here we go. Olivia, we're going to start with you. Ready?
Yep.
Do you prefer breakfast or dinner?
Dinner.
Yarno, are you a morning person or a night owl?
Night owl.
Tjeerd, do you like to get it done first or wait until the last minute?
Yeah, I like to get it done first. Yeah.
Olivia, would you rather be social or be alone?
Social.
Yarno, do you like to sleep in or take a nap later during the day?
Sleep in.
Tjeerd, do you like to work hard or play hard?
Work hard.
Olivia, would you rather drive or fly?
Drive.
Yarno, would you prefer to work on a puzzle or play a video game?
Ooh, I love puzzling.
Tjeerd, do you prefer dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Olivia, would you rather go to the beach right now or to the mountains?
Ooh, beach.
Yarno, spend money on a dream house or spend money on traveling the world?
Traveling the world.
Tjeerd, question for you. Is technology really good for us or is it really bad for us?
Really bad.
Olivia.
Unless it's used for podcasts.
Ooh, great answer. Your stock just went up. I love it. Olivia, do you prefer to dress up or dress down?
Dress up for occasions. Yeah, I like it.
Yarno, do you prefer books or magazine?
I prefer books.
Tjeerd, wine or beer?
Beer.
One more each. Olivia, do you prefer a good sunrise or a good sunset?
Sunset. Yeah.
Yarno, coffee or tea?
I'm drinking tea right now, but I'm going to go with coffee nonetheless.
Okay. Tjeerd, this one's last one for you. Here we go. Would you prefer to go to a concert tonight or go to a sporting event?
A concert, without a doubt.
Thank you for participating in Rapid Fire. You all succeeded beautifully.
Yeah.
This has been a really heartwarming conversation, and I knew it would be. I just didn't know how it was going to unfold, but I just had this feeling based on our conversations here through, the internet and your music, obviously, as a band. I think it speaks to who you are as a group of three, trying to express and communicate your feelings in a way that is touching, it's powerful, it's gentle. And I think for all the listeners out there who are discovering your music, I encourage you, while you're listening to music, to be more thoughtful about your life, to connect it to the loss of a loved one, or how to be more romantic towards a loved one, or whatever comes to your mind. This music really allows you to feel. And not all music does that. So I want to congratulate all three of you on this remarkable album. And I'm going to leave you with the quote here, but this time I don't want to hear a response. Here we go. Again, this comes from the book, The Creative Act, A Way of Being. Thank you to my guest, Meadowlake.
Thank you.
Rick says, once you feel a project is close to completion, it can be helpful to open the work to other perspectives. The primary aim is not to receive notes or opinions. This is your work, your expression. You are the only audience that matters. The intention is for you to experience the work anew. When playing music for someone else, we hear it differently than when we listen to it ourselves. It's as if borrowing a second set of ears. We're not necessarily looking for an outside perspective. We are more interested in widening our own. Thank you so much for tuning in to Surprise Cast. My name is William, also known as W. And remember this, listeners, great music is all around us. You just have to have your ears open. Ciao.